Hi everybody and welcome to today's webinar. Today's title is entitled Making the Most Out of Your ActivInspire Math Tools. We're going to pay specific attention to developing numeracy across the curriculum. My name is Samantha Clues and I'm your host for today, and today's presenter is Janice Pranstatter. Janice, if you'd like to get us started.
Thanks, Sam. On the screen now you can see the aims of today's session and what we intend to cover. The objective of this series of webinars is to highlight, introduce and remind you of the usefulness of interactive whiteboard technology and the software associated with it. In today's session we are going to have a look at the math tools that are available within the ActivInspire software, how they can be customized and how they can be used to support the development of numeracy skills across the curriculum. So we're going to start off with the most well-known math tools within the software, and these can all be found under the Tools menu on the main toolbar. Now, as you can see today, I'm doing this webinar using the primary skin of ActivInspire. But for those of you who are more familiar with the Studio skin, I also have screenshots here that I'll talk you through. So the Tool menu appears on both the Studio and the primary main toolbars. And when I click on that in the primary skin, you'll see that all of my tools come up at the bottom, and right here you can see my math tools. Okay? In the Studio skin, again, the icon looks the same on the main toolbar, but it opens up slightly different. So my menu opens up in this view here, and you'll find a math tool, and then you'll be able to hover over that and all the math tool options will pop up for you to see. Okay, so how do I use these? I'm just going to take that and move it out of my way so I've got a little bit more space. So when I want to use a tool, all I do is just select it and it opens up on my screen, and that's the same in the Studio menu. The software will allow me to have multiple tools open at the same time, so I can have multiple rulers, or I could have multiple math tools. So you can see I've got two rulers and a protractor there. I'm just going to get rid of those ones. We'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, so I can have multiple math tools. This enables me to more accurately replicate on the board what I would like my pupils to do at their desks. So effectively, I can be showing them exactly what I would like them to be doing themselves on their paper, or I could have a learner coming up and demonstrating how to do something on the board using the tools that they're familiar with. Hovering over different areas of the tool, you'll notice that my cursor icon changes. For example, if I hover over here, you can see that I've got a little arrow going two ways. So this allows me to rotate the ruler on its end. Okay, so you can see I can rotate it there. I can pick it up at the bottom, and I could rotate it as well that way. I can also hover in the middle here. That allows me to pick the tool up and move it around without rotating it at all. And if I go to the end, I can also resize the ruler as well. If I click on the ruler, once it's selected, I get my little menu option here. Now this menu option, you might notice, appears in a lot of places within our software. See it up here at the top of my window. You can see it on here on my main toolbar. Whenever you see that little menu button, it means that there's more options for you to do. So the options will change depending on, in this particular case, the math tool that you have open. So when I click on that, you can see that I can adapt this ruler slightly. I can change the top scale. I could change the bottom scale. And I could also decide that I was going to show or hide that angle. Now what I really like about this is it allows me to customize the look of my ruler to better replicate the ones that my learners are using. So again, that continuity between what they're doing at their desks and what's happening on the board. This is where I can also close that tool down. So I just click on that and I close it down. So you can see we've got our compass here. So again, hovering over different areas changes what I can do with that particular tool. And again, we get that tool and you'll see that the options in my menu there are different to reflect the new tool that I'm using. I am able to further customize some of the math tools through File in my main menu of ActivInspire and Settings. And then here I want to choose Tools. Now you'll see I've got a section entitled Math Tools. In here, I could change the color of my ruler. Okay, so maybe have that nice little purple color. I could change the text color on my ruler. I can change the translucency. What I like about this is some learners find that difficult, that more translucent ruler. So I could change the transparency or translucency of it just by using the slider here. I can change the scale in this way if I want. And the other thing I can do is this Show Draw Zone. Now I already had this selected on my tool. So I'm going to deselect that, and I'm first of all going to talk about it without the draw zone because that's the default, and then I'm going to come back and show it to you again with the draw zone. I'm just going to click Done. So if I open up my ruler tool again, you can see that those properties that I changed that color and the translucency, and you can see that's now reflected in my tools that I have opened. If I want to use this tool, it's what we refer to as a power tool. And the reason why we call it a power tool is it actually acts like a real ruler, just like the compass acts like a real compass. So it's not just a picture. So when I choose my pen tool, and I can choose the color I want down here and the pen width, remember if you're using Studio, you can do those same options but on your main toolbar. And then I just hover my pen. Okay, so you can see here that's the normal pen. But when I hover over top of my ruler, it snaps to the top of that ruler. And then when I draw, I don't actually have to keep it accurately right at the top of that ruler. As long as I've got that locked on, that will draw the line for me. And that makes it much easier for some learners to be able to use this tool at the board. Now, it can be a bit of a guessing game when you're trying to find exactly where that's locked to, and particularly if you do have a license for ActivInspire on a non-Promethean board. So to get around that, if I go back into my File and Settings and Tools again, this time I'm going to show the draw zone. And now when I bring that ruler out of my library, you'll notice that I've got these gray areas on the top and the bottom of my ruler, and that's my draw zone. So this helps you so that you know that as long as your pen is anywhere in that draw zone, that means that it's clicked onto that ruler and I can start to draw, or clicked onto that tool so I can start to draw. Okay, so quite a lot of customization there that you can do with these tools. So it's worth just having a little play with them, opening up and having a look. The next menu I want to cover, and I'm not going to spend too long with this, is the Shapes menu. Now, most of you probably know about the shapes, but I just want to point out a couple useful things that you might not be familiar with about them. So again, the Shape tool can be opened from the main toolbar. And to open it, I just click on the shapes and it opens up down here along the bottom. In the primary skin, I choose the shape I want. The first set of colors is my outline options. So I'm going to choose the blue. I can choose the thickness of my outline. And then my second lot of colors is my fill color. I'm going to choose green in this case. And now I can place my pen on the board and I can draw my shape. Okay, nice and simple. In the Studio, it's slightly different. So again, I've got that tool, that shape tool option on my main toolbar. Click on that to open it, and my tool menu opens along the side, as you can see here. So again, at the top are the fill colors. I've got all the different types of shapes and lines that I can draw. If I want to change the line thickness, the outline thickness, I can use the preset ones here on the toolbar, or my customizer for my slider tool for customization, and also my main toolbar here, my main color palette for the outline color. In the primary skin, you'll see we've got this little arrow here. So this tells me that there are more shapes available to me. I'll go into shapes, see that? More shapes available to me. And in the studio skin, it's a little double arrow here. So again, I just choose the shape I want, and then choose the outline color, choose the line thickness, and choose the fill color. Now, just in case you didn't know, all of these here, I'm not just limited to the colors that I have in front of me. What I can do is I can click on any of these colors and have a menu that gives me more options. I can even go into all of the colors in my computer. So I can really quickly create custom colors of my own. You can see that's now changed that. What I can also do is right-clicking on that again, I can use something called Color Picker. Now the Color Picker allows me to pick colors from other places on my flip chart page. What I really like about this is if I want to hide an object by making it the same color as the background, I can do that by using this tool. So I'm just going to select the color, and now you see it appears down there. And again, all I need to do now is just draw that on my board or on my page. Now all of these shapes have other properties that I can edit. So when I select a shape to get my object edit handles up, you can see that I've got them up here. But because we're in shapes, or because the software recognizes that this is a shape from the shape library, I have another tool here that says Edit Shape Points. When I click on that, it then allows me to edit different shapes in different ways. So you can see with this one, I'm just pulling on these little sides here, and I can change the look of that shape. If we have a look at the next one, again, click on that. And this one allows me to do something similar. So I can alter that shape. So I can really start to customize them to create shapes that I want for my class. The star one is slightly different. This time when I select it, you'll see I get this little yellow square. And what I can do with that is I can alter my shape just by pulling that little square up and down. Again, my speech bubbles, and I love this for using with my class as well. I can alter the look of my speech bubble, and I can also direct the speech where I want it to go. Okay? Now, a couple of useful things, as I say. Again, I can do the exact same thing in Studio. So we've got the little double arrow that goes down there. And again, just selecting them on there brings up that option, and I can be able to use it. Okay? So let's move on to the next. What I'd like to do now is have a look at a couple pedagogical examples of the use of these tools in various subject areas. So for this one, this is an activity for art, where we were studying space, and we were looking at creating a picture that demonstrated perspective from above. So what I can do is demonstrate to my class what I'm going to have them do at their desks. So in this case, we're going to choose our shape tool. I want to make it an orange fill, and I'm going to use that thickness of line with a black outline, and then I can just draw that shape on my page. Then just like my class will be doing back at their desks, I can bring up my ruler, pick it up, place it where I want it to be on my page, and then demonstrate how we line up those corners and then draw that line. And I want to do that line a little bit thicker, I think, than what I've got there, so I can choose my line thickness, okay, and draw that right up. I'm going to rotate that again. Oops, rotate it again. Much easier to do at the board than trying to do it with your mouse on your computer. And one last time, we'll do the last line here. So we're really starting to get that great perspective showing. And as I said, being able to demonstrate exactly on my page what my learners are going to do back at their desks. Or we could use these tools in a science lesson. So in this case, we are going to measure the angle of refraction. I'm just going to open my tools there, and I want to get at my ruler first of all. So we want to place the ruler so that it looks how it would be if I was putting it in my cup of water. So we know a ruler doesn't bend naturally. Okay, so we can see there that when we have it in our cup of water, not totally perfect there, but again, easier to do on your board, we can see that the ruler is actually straight, but when we put it in the water, it looks as if the ruler is bent, and then we could get up our protractor and we could measure that angle of refraction. So again, having the tools available to me to demonstrate exactly what I would like my class to do. Remember again, because these are power tools, you do need to close them down when you're finished with them, or they will open up, stay open on the next page. Instead of having to create a worksheet for my pupils and then a separate flip chart page to talk about it with them or demonstrate what I want them to do, I have used the import option within the software to bring the student's worksheet right into my ActivInspire software. If you're not sure on how to do this, you can view the recording from our first webinar this term on already created content. And this is on our YouTube channel as well. And this will take you through how to do that. But in our main file menu, we have the option there to import. And in this case, I imported a PDF document. This page as it is not ideal because it's too small for me to actually be able to input that information in there easily. But that's okay, because within the software we have another tool called our page zoom. So under view, I can select the page zoom with pen. And then when I put my pen down on the page, you can see it zooms in on my page and just makes that area a bit bigger. So I could bring the area that we're working on nice and big right there onto my page. Then we could use the pen, we could write in the activity, or we could use the text tool and we could write in an activity that we were doing. Then we need to say how many calories per hour we burned. So again, zoom back in and add that information in so we can get all that information in and there, and then come back to our page at the regular size. But what we really want to be able to do with this is to be adding up all that information. So there is a calculator that comes built within the ActivInspire software. So we could use this to do all of our calculations and demonstrate to my class what I want them to do. Now, not everybody likes that ActivInspire calculator because it is quite a simple, just basic calculator. So what I can do is under File and Settings, and then back under Tools again, if we scroll down, you'll see that we have an option for the calculator. So in this case, beside Choose Calculator, we have the Inspire calculator. If I click on that double arrows, I could then select as my default the operating system calculator. So when I select this, it would then open up, instead of the Inspire one that you just saw, it would open up my Windows 7 calculator that comes pre-installed with my operating system. If your school happens to have their own scientific calculator that they use, and we do find this with a lot of maths and science teachers, you also have the option of directing it to that calculator as your default. To do that, you just need to select on this little area down at the bottom, so it doesn't say anything, but just under OS calculator there. When I select that, it then makes this field visible to me. Use calculator specified by user. And if I just scroll along here, I get the little dot, 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 and then I can locate that calculator from my computer and have my software directed to that one for my calculations. Okay, I'm just going to go back to my ActivInspire calculator for now. The flexibility of the software also enables me to use the math tools outside of a standard flipchart page. In this exercise, the class is looking more closely at the effects of a tsunami. By entering Desktop Annotate, so again, same on the Studio toolbar, looks the same, I click that and it then takes me onto my desktop. What this essentially does is it puts an acetate over top of my desktop that I can then interact with. And as you can see, I have all of my tools available to me. So my main toolbar, but also the math tools that we're talking about today are available to me. So we're going to use the compass because the first activity in this lesson was to have my class draw concentric circles emanating from the epicenter of that earthquake. So we could do this on the board as well, very easily letting my class see. If I don't like that color pen, remember, I can change the thickness as well. So let's change the thickness and make it red. Make it easier to draw those lines. Okay. So as I said, we're not just limited to having access to these tools within our software. We can use them out of our software as well by making use of desktop Annotate. Again, if you want to find out a little bit more about how to do this, we did cover it in the Using Already Created Content webinar that I spoke about earlier. To get back to my flip chart, I just click on that Annotate button and it takes me right back to my flip chart page. Grids can be used in a variety of subject areas in a variety of ways. The Grid Designer in ActivInspire, which is accessed by right-clicking on the flip chart page, is a great way to not only put a grid on my page, but to also customize grids to look the way that I want them to look. Using this, so I go into Grid Designer here, I am quickly able to put a grid onto my page by making it visible. I can increase or decrease the scale just using the buttons here, or I can input my own information to customize it the way I want it to look. I can also add levels, so I can further customize the grid paper that I'm presenting to my learners here, so I can make it look very similar to what they're using at their desks. The other thing that I like is I can change the color of it. The default color of the lines is black, and I often find that that makes it difficult to see some of the information on the page. So I like to choose a gray color, and that just makes it much easier so that they are more subtly on your page behind the information that I have or on top of them. I can also further customize the style of my lines as well by using my options down here. What I can also do is, in this case, I've got the grid behind everything on my page. Now think about if we were doing a mapping lesson and we were looking at grid coordinates, and I had an island and I wanted them to give me the grid coordinates for a specific object on the island. Some of my class, most of my class, would probably cope okay with the grid being behind, but some would find that quite difficult. But what I can do here by clicking on top is I can actually have that grid on top of everything on my page. Therefore, giving that element of differentiation and making it slightly easier for some of my learners to cope with that lesson. In this science activity, the class is looking at the problem of speed versus time. They have recorded information from some experiments and research that they've done onto a chart, and then they're going to use this information to create a graph. So very quickly, using that Grid Designer, we can get the grid on our page, we can change the scale of the grid paper, and then we could get our math tools out just as they're going to be doing at their desks, and we can model how we're then going to draw that graph, how we're going to create that graph on our page. Okay, now just for time's sakes, I've already started to create that. Now, because of the scale of my grid paper and because of the amount of information that I have on our chart, you can see here that my grid actually doesn't fit all onto my page to make it visible. So what I can do if I want to view that is I can change the percentage view of my page, so we could do it that way to be able to see it if we wanted to with our class. And then remember, we always have that page zoom option to zoom in a little bit further. But what I can also do is a tool here under View called Page Extender. What this does is this allows me to extend the flip chart page. This was something that you could do in our old Active Studio software that lots of people had asked about when we changed to Inspire. And this became available to you in version 1.6 of your software. And I'll just tell you in a minute how you can find out what version you're on. And what it does is every time I click on it, it just expands the surface of my flip chart page. And as soon as I do that once, you'll see I get this little scroll bar down the side here, so I can scroll up and down on my paper. So that way, I could write my equation on my page, and once I get to the bottom, I can just extend the page to make sure I have some more room to write that down. So I'm modeling exactly, again on my flip chart page, what I would like my class to be able to do back at their desk. To take that off, I just deselect it, but you can see that that page is still extended, and it will save like that as well, so I can review that information later. Also built into the software in versions 1.6 and above is the equation editor. If you're not sure what version of the software you're on, you can go up to the Help menu and then About. And here it will tell you what version of the software. So in order for you to have access to Equation Editor, you need to make sure you're on 1.6 or anything above that. The Equation Editor allows you to quickly create equations and formulas and then add them to the flip chart page. To open this tool, I just go up to Insert and Equation in the main menu. You will notice that my cursor has now changed to the pi symbol. When I click on the page, the Equation Editor will now open. And sometimes it does take a little minute, and my computer is running a bit low on memory right now, so sometimes it takes a little bit longer than others. So we'll just give it a minute there and hope that it's going to come up. Sam?
Yes?
I think it's frozen my software again. Okay, good. So my equation editor has opened, so you can see here that here on the screen. So at the top of the window are my options along here, my options ribbon. And you can see on this ribbon I have a number of palettes. On any of these, I can click on them, and then that opens up the palette, and it gives me a wide range of functions that I can use for creating different types of equations. My software recognizes, okay, so what I can then do is I'm just going to choose this one, and let's create one. So I could then type in an equation and put that on my page. So clicking OK, you could then see that it goes on my page. To come out of the equation editor, I just go back to my select, and now I'm right back to my regular interaction with my board. So you can see here a lesson done by a math teacher and using lots of these little equations. So if I want to edit these equations, all I need to do is double click on the equation, and then that will reopen my equation editor. So the software recognizes when something on your page has been created by the equation editor. If you want to find out more about this tool, there are two really useful active tips on Promethean Planet that can show you, that you can view to show you how you can use this. There is also a good discussion in the maths forum about this tool that is well worth a look at. I put the link on the bottom of the page here for you. Okay, so the active tips are 100 and 101, and this is the link to the discussion on the community. And finally, just in case I haven't given you enough already to think about, you can also find further math tools in the ActivInspire resource library. In the primary skin, my resource library appears on my main toolbar, and to get into the categories, I just press that upwards facing arrow. Studio, slightly different, that the resource library is located in my browser window here, so I just click on that to open it. Okay? But if you have installed the software and resource pack correctly, both of them will show the same resources. So open up my categories here again. We're going to go into shared resources, and on your page what you should have is what you see here in front of you. So default with the software when I install it. I apologize about my phone going off. This is the drawbacks of working from your house. Anyway, we'll just plow on above it. As you can see, the first ones here are the ones that default with my software when I install it. The bottom one here, called Subjects, is a supplementary resource pack. Now, this needs to be downloaded separately from the main application and installed separately. If you don't have this, I do recommend that you go back and download it and get it installed, because it does have the majority of your resources, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. So with regards to other tools for math, I can click on Activities and Templates. Under Activities here, you can see we've got some great ones here. Again, using those numeracy concepts and not always in a math context. You also have a variety of grid, graphing paper, grid paper, lined paper that you can use, already pre-designed for you. And then in my subjects, we've got the mathematics folder here, and you can see that there's loads in there. Okay, so it's worth just having a look, taking some time to look through that to see what's available to you. Okay, so I expect that some of the things that I've covered today you were already aware of, but I hope that I've also been able to introduce some new useful ActivInspire tools and features. I'm just going to pass you back to Sam, and she is going to take you through some next steps after today's session.
Thanks, Janice. That was really, really helpful, and I hope that everyone else found it useful as well. Now, you can review some of the skills and the examples that Janice used today by revisiting your Introduction to ActivInspire course. Now, this is found under the Professional Development tab on Promethean Planet on the home page, and also in the community forums. Under that Professional Development tab, you'll also find a section called Active Tips. And these are short video tutorials on a wide variety of functions, from anything in containers to working with the equation editor. And you're able to watch the Active Tip video or download it to your MP3 player. Now, after the video, do make sure that you download the associated flip chart. This way that you can practice those new skills with the examples that are shown. And there are some great active tips on the equation editor that Janice mentioned to you there. Also, don't forget the help files in your ActivInspire menu. So once you're in ActivInspire, if you go to help, there is a contents file and a help files within there. They're very underused, and actually they're a fantastic resource, just helping you with that little thing that you need right then and there. Now, this series of webinar titles has been selected in consultation with Babcock Education and reflects the content that the teachers in that region suggested to us. If you do require additional training, Promethean work closely with accredited organisations throughout our channel partners and academies programme. Now, more information on these can be found on the relevant Promethean Planet site, again under that Professional Development tab. But we would also recommend that you contact your education support team in your local authority for information on region-specific recommendations. Okay, you can see here the further titles in this webinar series. And although we try to advertise locally, we do recommend that you keep an eye on our advertisement in the training forum on Promethean Planet. Registration for all the remaining sessions is open now. And if you are a Scottish teacher, you'll also find this information in the Promethean storeroom on Glow. Both Janice and I advertise via Facebook and Twitter, and on screen now are our Twitter handles. So if you'd like to follow us so that you constantly get those updates, that would be fantastic. And we do want to get word out about these webinars, and social media is a great way for us to do that. Therefore, if you enjoyed today's session, please do tweet about it. Put a link on your Facebook for your other teacher colleagues as well. We'd like to encourage as many teachers as possible to join us. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.